The Texas Education Agency would like to thank you for taking the time to view the Houston Independent School District Board of Managers recorded webinar. This webinar is provided as a supplement to the 4 previously scheduled informational sessions for prospective Houston ISD Board of Manager applicants. The webinar will be approximately 15 minutes. The Texas Education Agency notified the Houston Independent School District on March 15th, 2023 that it intended to appoint a Board of Managers. This webinar will detail the roles and responsibilities of a Board of Managers and then walk potential applicants through the application and selection process. To begin this webinar, let's discuss the roles and responsibilities of a Board of Managers. If you are watching this webinar, you are either considering applying for the position or are curious about the role the board will play in the future of Houston ISD. It is my hope to dispel any myths that you may have heard about a Board of Managers and outline the role of the board moving forward. First, I think it is important to know that all Board of Managers will be required to live within the boundaries of Houston ISD. This has been made quite clear by the Houston community, and the agency has added it to the selection process even though it is not required by law. Next, while the Texas Education Agency's commissioner will appoint each manager, it will be the managers that govern the district, not the Texas Education Agency. The TEA commissioner will receive updates, and the assigned conservators will continue to support and monitor the governance of the district, but the hard work of developing the vision and goals, setting the budget, and supporting strategic initiatives of the district will fall to the appointed superintendent and Board of Managers. Lastly, it is important to note that the Board of Manager placements are temporary and include a transition period where elected board members are placed back on the Board of Managers after improvements have been made. The Texas Education Agency used its Lone Star Governance Framework to develop the job description for the Board of Managers, which consists of 4 key responsibilities. Even though I will discuss the 4 responsibilities, I encourage you to review the complete Board of Manager job description on the TEA Houston ISD Board of Managers webpage at tea.texas.gov/HISD-Board of Managers. The first and second key responsibilities for the Board of Managers will be to set the vision and core values for the district over the next several years, and then support the superintendent in their actions to accomplish those goals. As you can see on the screen, the first step will be to proactively create opportunities to engage community members and seek input on the district's vision and core values. The agency has identified the skill of authentically engaging stakeholders as a key responsibility for board members. Once the district's vision and core values have been identified, the board will adopt goals to realistically accomplish the vision. Then, in its actions during board meetings, the Board of Managers will support the superintendent to ensure the goal is met. The Board of Managers will also be responsible for evaluating the performance of the district as it relates to the developed vision, values, and expected student outcomes. It will develop, in collaboration with the superintendent, a monitoring calendar to review its goals and goal progress measures at each board meeting. The performance of the district should be transparent for board and community members. Lastly, the Board of Managers are temporary and must continue to work with the local elected Board of Trustees to ensure a smooth transition back to local control. The Board of Managers will model effective board behavior and practices by implementing the Lone Star Governance Framework with fidelity to improve outcomes for all students in Houston ISD. In the Commissioner's letter to Houston ISD, he outlined 3 specific areas that must be improved before he initiates the transition process back to the local school board. First, the Board of Managers will support the education of all students in Houston ISD by ensuring there are no multi-year failing campuses. Second, the Board of Managers must ensure that all students with disabilities are served appropriately and within the required timelines. The Texas Education Agency placed a management team with 2 special education conservators in the district in December 2020 due to a TEA special investigation report. While progress has been made in some areas, the district must meet all legal requirements prior to the Board of Managers being removed. Lastly, the Board of Managers will be scored using the Lone Star Governance Integrity Instrument and must demonstrate through procedure and conduct that it meets focus on the students of Houston ISD. It is important to note that the Board of Managers is not permanent and will transition back to a local Board of Trustees. As you can see on the chart, the Commissioner of Education will receive feedback on the progress of the district and has up to 2 years to announce the transition timeline. If during the first 2 years, and not later than the 2-year mark, the Commissioner has determined sufficient progress has been made, then he would determine the time to appoint 3 currently elected trustees to join 6 Board of Managers. He would then place 3 elected trustees each year until the district has returned to local control. The Board of Managers can be extended for an additional 2 years if sufficient progress has not been made or the campus that was the rationale for the placement has not received 2 consecutive acceptable ratings. Now that you have a glimpse of the roles and responsibilities of the Board of Managers and how the district will transition back to local control, let's discuss how to apply for a position on the Houston ISD Board of Managers. The Commissioner started the process of selecting a Board of Managers in 2019 and would like to thank all community members that participated in the process. Since he has reinitiated the Board of Manager application and selection process through his announcement on March 15th, all community members must follow the steps outlined on the screen to be considered for the current Board of Manager appointment. The application and selection process consisted of 5 parts in 2019 and remains 5 parts now. On the screen, you can see the 5 parts at the top, including the application, the preliminary applicant screening, training, interviews, and finally, the appointment. All applications are due no later than April 6th. In the Commissioner letter to Houston ISD, the Commissioner noted that the transition to a Board of Managers would not occur prior to June 1st. The Commissioner wants to ensure a thorough vetting process is completed to ensure the top 9 candidates are identified. Before we go through each part of the application and selection process, I think it's important to note what the agency is looking for in the Board of Managers. As mentioned before, the Board of Managers will be made up of Houstonians living within the boundaries of Houston ISD. The goal will be for the Board of Managers to reflect the diversity of the Houston ISD student body. It is also imperative that each Board of Manager believes that all students in Houston ISD can achieve at high levels and be able to succeed in college, a career, or in the military. To this end, the board must be laser focused on improving student outcomes for all students and schools across Houston ISD. Lastly, as mentioned before, it will be extremely important for Board of Manager members to be able to connect and collaborate with each other, the Houston community, and district stakeholders. The Houston ISD Board of Manager application can be found on the TEA website at the link provided on the screen. On the right-hand side, you can see a screenshot of the website and where the application link can be found. Feel free to pause the webinar and use the QR code on the left-hand side of your screen to access the application directly. The agency is estimating that it will take anywhere between 1 to 2 hours to complete the application, which consists of the following areas: demographics, which includes your name, address, email, phone number, date of birth, and social security number, which will all be used for the fingerprinting process. The section also asks how long you've lived in Houston and in Houston ISD, which Houston ISD board district you reside in, and have you ever or do you currently have children that are enrolled in Houston ISD. The next section is your educational background, including high school, undergraduate, and graduate degrees, and whether you attended a Houston ISD school. The application will then ask for your current employment, including the job title, description, employment dates, and location. Next, you will complete a section on conflicts. Have you or any immediate family member worked in Houston ISD? And have you or any immediate family members served as a vendor for the district in the past 10 years? Lastly, you will complete an attestation that states you understand this application is a public document, that an incomplete application or inaccurate information on the application will disqualify you from the application and selection process, that fingerprinting is required, that a felony or crime of fraud or crime involving a child will be an automatic disqualifier, that no financial compensation is provided to Board of Manager members, that you can be removed by the Commissioner, and that you must complete a conflict of interest disclosure form twice a year. Once the attestation is complete, you will attach your current resume. The application is due no later than Thursday, April 6th, so you have plenty of time to complete the application, but you will want to start as soon as possible to ensure all information is correct and submitted on time. Please note that any incomplete applications or applications not submitted by the deadline will not be considered. Also, as mentioned throughout the presentation, all Board of Manager members must live within the Houston ISD boundaries. Any applicant that lives outside the Houston ISD boundaries will not be considered. All applicants meeting the minimum requirements above and application scoring threshold will be notified to complete a fingerprinting process. All advancing Board of Manager applicants must be fingerprinted again, even if they have been fingerprinted in a role for education. Lastly, please note that the agency will contact references that have been identified on your application and other stakeholders in the Houston community, including the Houston Legislative Delegation. All advancing applicants will be asked to join either the April 15th and 16th or April 22nd and 23rd Lone Star Governance Training. In the email notifying the applicant of their advancement in the process, the agency will include the location of the trainings. The agency has already received several questions concerning the Lone Star Governance Training and whether an applicant would have to go through the training again even if they had received the training in 2019. The answer to that question is yes. The LSG training framework recommends retraining every 2 years. After the Lone Star Governance Training, applicants will be notified if they have advanced to the interview phase of the application and selection process. First, applicants will be interviewed by agency staff through a panel interview. Advancing candidates will then have their final observational interview during the Effective Leadership Strategies training on April 29th and 30th. Finalists will be notified in May of their selection on the Board of Managers and will be offered additional training before being appointed in June. If you have any questions regarding the application and selection process, please email boardofmanagers@tea.texas.gov. The Texas Education Agency thanks you for your time and hopes that this webinar has met our stated objectives of detailing the roles and responsibilities of a Board of Managers and outlining the application and selection process. If you are interested in applying for the Board of Managers, You can pause the video and access the application through the QR code.